Hey everyone, welcome back to Storytime Central, and today, I have a story that will literally blow your minds because what I discovered about my wife changed everything. I thought I knew about my marriage, and trust me when I say, this gets absolutely insane, so buckle up because you are not ready for this. So my name is Jake, and I have been married to my wife, Sarah, for almost 8 years now, and honestly I thought we had the perfect marriage. You know, the kind that everyone looks at and says, goals: we met in college, fell in love, got married, bought a house in the suburbs, had 2 amazing kids, and from the outside looking in, everything seemed absolutely perfect. But here's the thing about perfect marriages: sometimes they are just really good illusions. About 6 months ago, I started noticing some changes in Sarah. Nothing too dramatic at first, just little things that seemed off, like she would be on her phone way more than usual, and whenever I walked into the room she would quickly close whatever she was looking at or switch apps. I know that is like classic suspicious behavior, right? But I did not want to be that husband. You know, the paranoid, jealous type who accuses their wife of something without any real proof, so I just brushed it off, thinking maybe she was planning a surprise for my birthday or shopping for gifts or something innocent like that. But then the changes started getting more noticeable. Sarah began going to the gym a lot more, which, do not get me wrong, I was supportive of because health is important, but it went from like twice a week to literally every single day, and she would be gone for hours, not just an hour workout, but like 3 or 4 hours at a time. And when I asked her about it, she would just say she was doing extra classes or meeting with a trainer, but something about the way she said it felt rehearsed, like she had practiced that answer. Then there were the girls' nights out, which started happening way more frequently, like every weekend without fail. And again, I am not the controlling type. I want my wife to have friends and have fun, but it was the secrecy around it that bothered me. She would not tell me where they were going or who exactly would be there, and a few times I tried calling her during these nights out and she would not answer until hours later with some excuse about the music being too loud or her phone being in her purse. The biggest red flag though was when she started talking about going back to work. Sarah had been a stay-at-home mom since our first child was born, which was her choice and something we both agreed on, but suddenly she was really pushing this narrative about needing independence and her own money and wanting to build a career. Again, now there is absolutely nothing wrong with any of that, but it was the urgency and the way she talked about it that felt off, like it was not just about personal fulfillment. It felt like she was preparing for something. One night about 4 months ago, I could not sleep. I had this gut feeling that something was wrong. You know, that feeling deep in your stomach that just tells you something is not right. I went downstairs to get some water, and I saw Sarah's laptop open on the kitchen counter. She had fallen asleep on the couch, and normally I would never invade her privacy like that, but something just pulled me towards that screen, and what I saw made my blood run cold. She had left her email open, and right there at the top of her inbox was an email from a law firm. The subject line read, "Consultation, follow up," and even though every part of me knew I should not read it, I clicked on it and my entire world shattered. It was a follow-up email from a divorce attorney thanking her for the consultation and out the next steps in preparing for a divorce. Filing the email talked about asset division, child custody arrangements, and how to properly document everything for the strongest case possible. I literally felt like I could not breathe. I just stood there in my kitchen at 2 in the morning reading this email over and over again, trying to make sense of it. My wife, the woman I loved, the mother of my children, had been consulting with a divorce attorney and had not said a single word to me about any problems in our marriage. I mean, yes, we had our disagreements like any couple, but nothing that I thought was marriage ending, nothing that could not be worked through with communication. I did not confront her that night. I could not. I was too shocked, too hurt, too confused. Instead, I went back to bed and just laid there staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything running through every interaction we had had over the past few months, and suddenly, it all made sense. The phone secrecy, the extra gym time, the girls' nights out, the push to go back to work. She was not having an affair, she was planning an exit strategy. The next few weeks were absolute torture because I had to pretend like everything was normal. While knowing that my wife was actively planning to leave me, I started paying closer attention to everything she did, and the more I looked, the more I found she had opened a separate bank account in just her name. She had been moving small amounts of money from our joint account into this new one, nothing big enough to be immediately noticeable, but over time, it added up to several $1,000s. She had also been documenting everything, and I mean everything. I found a journal hidden in her closet where she had been writing down every single argument we ever had, every time I raised my voice, every time I came home late from work, every little thing that could potentially be used against me in a custody battle. And the way she wrote about me in that journal, it was like I was reading about a stranger, some terrible person who I did not even recognize. She had twisted every situation to make herself look like the victim and me look like the villain. I also discovered that she had been meeting with a financial advisor, someone who specialized in helping women prepare financially for divorce. She had been getting advice on how to protect her interests, how to maximize her share of our assets, how to prepare for single income living. This was not some impulsive decision. This was a calculated long-term plan that she had been working on for months, maybe even longer. The worst part, though, was realizing that she had been turning our friends against me. I started noticing that some of our couple friends were acting different around me, more distant, more judgmental, and then I found out through a mutual friend that Sarah had been confiding in people, telling them her version of our marriage, painting me as this neglectful, workaholic husband who did not appreciate her, who took her for granted. And these people, who I thought were my friends, too, were taking her side without ever even talking to me about it. I felt so betrayed, so blindsided, because if she was unhappy, why did she not just talk to me? Why did she not say, "Hey, Jake, I am not happy, we need to work on our marriage," or "We need to go to counseling"? Why did she have to go behind my back and plan this entire exit strategy like I was some kind of enemy, instead of her husband, the father of her children, the person she had vowed to spend her life with? About 3 months ago, I decided I could not keep pretending anymore. I needed to confront her, but I also needed to protect myself, because clearly she had been protecting herself this whole time. So I did something I never thought I would do. I consulted with my own attorney. I brought in all the evidence I had found, the emails, the journal entries, the bank statements, everything, and my attorney told me that what she was doing was actually pretty common in divorces. One party starts preparing long before the other one even knows there is a problem. My attorney advised me to start documenting things too, to keep records of my involvement with the kids, my financial contributions to the household, any evidence that would counter the narrative Sarah was building. He also told me to not confront her yet, to wait until I had everything in order, because once she knew that I knew everything, would escalate quickly. So I spent the next month doing exactly what she had been doing. I documented every school pickup, every bedtime story, every meal I cooked, every diaper I changed with our youngest. I kept records of all my work hours to show that I was not the absent workaholic she was claiming I was. I gathered financial records showing our true financial situation. I even installed a voice activated recorder in my car, because in my state it is legal to record conversations you are a part of, and I had a feeling that eventually there would be a conversation I would need on record. Then, about 6 weeks ago, everything came to a head. Sarah told me she wanted to talk, and I knew this was the moment she was finally going to tell me she wanted a divorce. We sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where we had shared thousands of meals, where we had helped our kids with homework, where we had planned our future together, and she looked me in the eyes and said, "Jake, I think we need to separate." I asked her why. I wanted to hear her say it out loud. I wanted to hear what reasons she had come up with after months of planning. She gave me this whole speech about how we had grown apart, how she felt unappreciated, how she needed to find herself again. All these vague therapy speak phrases that sounded like she had rehearsed them 100 times, and maybe she had. I let her finish her whole speech, and then I did something she was not expecting. I told her I knew about the attorney, I knew about the separate bank account, I knew about the journal, I knew about the financial advisor, I knew everything. And the look on her face, it was like I had just pulled the rug out from under her. She went pale, and for a moment she just sat there, speechless. Then she tried to turn it around on me. She accused me of violating her privacy, of being controlling, of proving exactly why she needed to leave. She said I was being paranoid and manipulative, and that this reaction was exactly what she had been afraid of, but I did not let her gaslight me. I calmly told her that I had been documenting everything too, that I had my own attorney, that I knew exactly what she had been planning, and that if she wanted a divorce, we could do this, but it was going to be fair. That conversation turned into a massive argument, the biggest fight we had ever had in our entire relationship. She screamed, I screamed, things were said that could never be taken back. And by the end of it, we were both crying, exhausted, and sleeping in separate rooms. The next morning, Sarah left. She packed a bag and went to stay with her sister, and for the first time in 8 years, I was alone in the house with my kids asking me where mommy was, and me having to come up with answers that would not traumatize them, telling them that mommy needed some time away, that everything would be okay, even though I had no idea if that was true. Over the next few weeks, things got even messier. Sarah hired an aggressive attorney, someone with a reputation for getting wives the maximum possible in divorces, and suddenly the woman I had loved and built a life with was treating me like the enemy. Every communication went through lawyers, every discussion about the kids had to be documented. It was cold, it was clinical, it was heartbreaking. But here is where the story takes a turn. About 3 weeks into our separation, I got a phone call from Sarah. She was crying hysterically, asking if she could come over to talk in person. I was hesitant because my attorney had advised me to keep all communication through legal channels, but she sounded so desperate, so broken, that I agreed. When she showed up at the house, she looked terrible, like she had not slept in days. She sat down and just started apologizing, saying she had made a terrible mistake, that she did not really want a divorce, that she had been confused and scared and had let other people influence her decisions. I asked her what she meant by other people, and that is when she told me everything. Turns out Sarah had been spending a lot of time with a group of women at the gym, women who were either divorced or in the process of divorcing, and they had basically created this echo chamber where every complaint Sarah had about our marriage was validated and amplified. These women had convinced her that she was in an unhappy marriage, that she deserved better, that she should leave me and take everything. They had connected her with their divorce attorneys, their financial advisors. They had basically coached her through the entire process. Sarah said that being away from me and the kids made her realize that these women did not actually care about her or our marriage. They just wanted to validate their own choices by encouraging her to make the same ones. She said she had been so caught up in this narrative of being underappreciated and needing independence that she had forgotten about all the good in our marriage, all the reasons she fell in love with me in the first place. She told me that her sister had finally talked some sense into her, had pointed out that while our marriage was not perfect, it was not bad either, that every marriage has problems and the solution is not to run away and plan a secret divorce, but to actually communicate and work through issues together. I did not know what to say. I was angry and hurt, and part of me wanted to tell her that it was too late, that she had burned this bridge and there was no going back. But another part of me, the part that still loved her, the part that wanted our family to stay together, was willing to listen. We talked for hours that night, really talked for the first time in months, maybe. years, Sarah admitted that she had been unhappy, but that a lot of it was her own internal struggles about identity and purpose, and she had unfairly blamed me for those feelings. I admitted that I had not been as attentive as I should have been, that I had gotten comfortable in the marriage and stopped putting in the effort that I used to. We both acknowledged that we had communication problems, that we had let small issues build up over time instead of addressing them, that we had stopped being a team and started being roommates who co-parented but did not really connect anymore. Sarah asked if I would be willing to try counseling if she called off the divorce proceedings, if we could start over and try to rebuild what we had lost. I told her I needed time to think about it because trust is not something that just comes back overnight. She had spent months planning to leave me, documenting everything I did wrong, preparing to take our kids away from me. And that kind of betrayal does not just disappear because she changed her mind. But I also knew that divorce would devastate our kids, that deep down I still loved her, and that maybe, just maybe, this could be a turning point for us, a wake-up call that our marriage needed serious work, and that we both needed to commit to doing that work. So we decided to try. We called off the divorce proceedings, at least temporarily, and started going to marriage counseling twice a week. It has been hard, really hard. There are days when I look at her and I am still angry about everything that happened, days when I wonder if I am being stupid for giving her another chance, days when I question whether we are just delaying the inevitable. But there are also good days, days when we laugh together like we used to, days when I see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, days when I feel hopeful that we can actually get through this. The counselor has helped us develop better communication tools, has helped us understand the root causes of our problems, has given us homework to work on our connection. We have also made some concrete changes. Sarah did go back to work part-time, which has been good for her. She needed that sense of independence and purpose outside of being a wife and mother. And I have made a real effort to be more present, to not just be physically there, but to be emotionally available, to have real conversations, to do small things that show I appreciate her. We have also cut out the toxic influences. Sarah stopped hanging out with those women from the gym, and we have been more careful about who we confide in about our marriage problems, because we learned the hard way that not everyone has your best interests at heart. I am not going to sit here and tell you that everything is perfect now, or that we have completely healed from this, because that would be a lie. There are still trust issues, there are still moments of resentment, there are still fears that this could happen again, but we are working on it, we are trying, and maybe that is all you can really do in a marriage. Just keep trying, keep showing up, keep choosing each other even when it is hard. The whole experience taught me some really important lessons. First, that communication is everything. If Sarah had come to me when she first started feeling unhappy, we could have addressed it together before it got to the point of her planning a divorce. Second, that marriage takes constant work. You cannot just coast on autopilot and expect everything to stay good. You have to actively invest in your relationship every single day. Third, that outside influences can be really dangerous when you are vulnerable, especially people who project their own issues onto your situation. You have to be careful about who you let speak into your marriage. And fourth, that sometimes the worst crisis can become a catalyst for positive change. If we had not gone through this, we might have just continued in our comfortable but disconnected pattern for years. So yeah, that is my story about how I discovered my wife was planning to leave me, and how we are now trying to rebuild our marriage. It is messy, it is complicated. It is not the fairy tale ending that people want to hear, but it is real, and honestly, I think real is more valuable than perfect. If you are going through something similar in your relationship, my advice is this: talk to your partner before you talk to a lawyer, try counseling before you try divorce, go to therapy to work on the marriage, not just to prepare for its end. And if you do decide to separate, make sure it is because you both genuinely cannot make it work, not because outside voices convinced you to give up. Marriage is hard. Nobody tells you how hard it really is when you are standing at that altar, making those vows, but it can also be beautiful and worth fighting for if both people are willing to fight. And right now, Sarah and I are fighting not against each other, but for our marriage, for our family, for the life we built together, and only time will tell if that fight will be enough. Thanks for listening to my story, guys. I know it was long and probably not what you expected, but this is my reality. Right now, if you have been through something similar, drop a comment below and let me know how you handled it. And if you are currently struggling in your marriage, just know you are not alone, and there is no shame in asking for help, whether that means counseling or just talking to someone you trust. Until next time, this is Storytime Central reminding you that life is messy, relationships are complicated, and sometimes the hardest stories are the ones that do not have clear endings yet. Take care, everyone.